Hi, Jay Smith here to talk about transportation safety regulations. In this brief presentation, we'll be focusing on maritime safety or ocean transport safety. This mode of transport is crucial to the effectiveness of the supply chain as it is responsible for the successful delivery of about 80% of total goods traded worldwide. And without further ado, let's talk safety. I'd first like to talk about the SOLAS Convention. In April of 1912, the RMS Titanic, pictured here, struck an iceberg and sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the story is well known around the world, but few realize the impact that this tragedy had on safety regulations in the shipping industry. And after the sinking of the Titanic, it was apparent that safety standards were not being enforced or were simply non-existent. And thus a set of regulations needed to be implemented. Now, in 1914, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, was born. And with it came a vast array of acceptability standards and various other safety criteria. And throughout the years, the SOLAS Convention has been rewritten. It's been rewritten several times to conform to the developing shipping industry. Now, the fourth rewrite was a result of the adoption of SOLAS by the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, in 1960. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But in 1974, the SOLAS revision, it's now currently the set standard for regulations. Though there have been many amendments and updates that have been worked into the rewrite over the years. And one of the primary concerns of the SOLAS Convention was to improve the quality of construction, the integrity of the ship's hull while in open waters. The Titanic disaster proved that engineering standards were subpar for the risks that travel by sea really imposed at the time. There were requirements in place to ensure that a ship's hull can withstand an impact and maintain stability of the ship after impact. There are also regulations governing routine maintenance of machinery and electrical systems. Now, new rules governing life-saving apparatuses were also implemented. Titanic, as most are aware, had far too few lifeboats available to accommodate all onboard souls. And SOLAS regulations refer to the International Life-Saving Appliance Code, the LSA, which states specific requirements for lifeboats, life jackets, etc., and also their arrangement or their placement on board a shipping vessel. Radio communications involve regulations of the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, GMDSS. These regulations ensure that larger vessels are equipped with satellite-based emergency position indicating radio beacons, as well as search and rescue transponders. Now, these devices will aid rescue personnel in quickly locating a ship in distress. There's also a mandate that instructs nearby ships to assist those in distress, which is actually included in the specifications of navigational safety. And safety and navigation, it includes maintenance of navigational equipment and software. Also specification of routes and ice patrol services when ships need to gain access to frozen water routes. Additionally, there's fire protection clauses. Fire protection related to the construction and integrity of the ship's design. But vessels are now sectioned or zoned in an attempt to segregate any outbreaks or limit the exposure to other areas of the ship. And additional provisions specify where fire extinguishers are located and also how accessible emergency exits are on board the ship. Now, carriage of cargoes provisions define how loads are to be secured while in transit. while carriage of dangerous goods, they include specifications on the stowage, the segregation uh, of hazardous materials, proper documentation of these materials, and they could be things like flammable liquids or bulk chemicals, things like that. Now, granted, all of these requirements outlined by the SOLAS Convention, these are not all of the requirements that are listed here, but it does give us a pretty good idea of how important the safety protocols are within the maritime transport. Now let's look at the IMO and some of the other conventions that have been implemented to aid in the understanding and enforcement of safety regulations within the shipping industry. The mission of the International Maritime Organization is to promote safe and secure shipping practices, which include environmental concerns. And this is all done through collaborative accountability of all members or member states, as they call them, and their respective governments. Now, I say all members, but according to Wikipedia, there are 175 member states or nations that are included in the IMO. Now, as mentioned in the previous slide, the IMO adopted the SOLAS Convention in 1960, which was IMO's first order of business after its 1958 inception. But then in 1972, the IMO introduced the COLREG Convention to incorporate standards for operating procedures as a way of preventing collisions in open waters. And some of the guidelines include specified speed limits according to a shipping vessel's size and or payload. Other provisions include what to do if a collision is imminent and how to safely maneuver your vessel to avoid catastrophe. Other rules specify the proper way to safely cross active traffic lanes, especially in a narrow canal route, for instance. And there are regulations on maintaining effective visibility of your vessel at night by using specific lighting patterns. And there are even specifics on how to blow your horn properly. And all of these measures are in place to reduce the risk of damaged ships and cargo, as well as injury and death. But when we talk about safety, there's more than just bodily injury and damaged cargo to think about. Now, MARPOL is the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, and its regulations pertain to pollutants such as exhaust fumes and oil spills. There are also some provisions within MARPOL to mandate that certain oil tankers have double hulls to increase the integrity and the stability of the ship, which decreases the risk of major oil spills, such as the Exxon Valdez incident of March 1989, actually. And when it comes to safety standards, the primary goal is to ensure that everyone follows the same guidelines. The reason these rules are in place are to, one, keep our sea captains, crews, and passengers safe. The last thing we want is for casualties to occur. Secondly, we want to ensure that our cargo is secure and it reaches its destination unmarred and intact. Thirdly, we want to ensure that our wildlife and natural environment are not affected by the negligence or incompetencies of shipping companies. And the bottom line is all of the safety regulations put in place by the IMO and SOLAS are there to establish a means to achieve a secured sustainability for the supply chain and our global economy. So I thank you for your time, and let's just continue working together to ensure a sustainable future for our community and for our planet. Thank you.